While we're on the topic of necks, especially the set necks, we've got a custom inlay option on basically all the models. There's a few options, but the Hollywood Classics tend to get the most elaborate inlay. This is Christina.
Hey, Christina.
She doesn't just do inlay. She does body blanks. She runs a CNC sometimes. I mean, she's really jumped in there and learning a lot of things and bring a lot to the table. But right now, if you look, she's putting the actual abalone pieces into a Hollywood Classic fingerboard. These are cut on the CNC with the same precision as the bodies, and you can see down here we actually cut all our own pieces here. You know, it's not farmed out. We don't get them from overseas. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we figured if we're gonna do it, let's just do it. You know, so every aspect of it is done here.
All right, so this is Christina, who does a lot of stuff here, including inlays in the necks. What are you working on here again?
Right now, I'm just setting the inlays in here. Kind of how we start is we get sheets, and they get cut out on the CNC. And as you can see, we have a nice little collection in here. And then we usually go ahead and clean them up. And once they get pristine, we just lay them.
How do you clean them up?
Actually, we have a tiny little file, and this is kind of a tedious portion, but we just file off the edges, make sure that they're nice and clean, no chips, nothing like that.
Do they require you have a certain eye glass prescription, or you made a certain test?
It makes it a lot easier for me because some of them we do work with really small. These are the 2mm side dots that we put on, so it is kind of painstaking to.
The mandatory eye tests and stuff.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, clean them up, and then we go ahead and lay them in like so.
Is this just epoxy? Or?
Yeah, this is just a regular super glue that we get. Make sure that they're not too low and that they're sinking in the fretboard or anything like that. Once they get set, we line them up, clear all the gaps up, and let it dry. And then once we're done with that, when they're all done, sand them down a little bit where they end up actually looking like this. And this is where they're ready to kind of get glued onto their necks and then trued up. Side dots and all.
Okay, so Christina, I noticed when you look at it on this one that you showed us, it's more, they're all inlaid here. And if you look closely, you can see that there's a little bit of darkness around the outside of it. And that's not because there's a massive cutout and it's we had to fill it all in. It's because the epoxy has absorbed into the wood around it. Is that right? And then
slightly, yeah. The thing is that when we take this down, we don't want to take it down actually too far because it does have to be trued with the radius and everything on that as well once it gets glued up. So we just take off just a fair enough amount so that it's a little bit even. There's a little bit of texture. You can still kind of feel it. And then once it gets trued up, the rest of it comes off.
By trued up, explain exactly what you mean by trued up.
That's when the radius is actually put on. When it's glued onto the neck, the radius of the fretboard is the truing process of it.
And that process takes at least a little bit off everywhere, probably more on the sides.
Exactly. It gives it the nice little rounding that people are kind of sought after. So, and we actually have compound radiuses here, which I believe are 14 to 16. Most of them are 14. So.
And here you're doing massive Christmas tree inlays for a massive guitar, right?
Exactly. Those are our little Christmas ornaments.
Really?
Yeah. We cut them out on our laser.
All right, Christina, so as people take a look around your station, you've also got a bunch of fret wire here. So you install fret wire at a later stage of the process, right?
Yes. Once they get the final truing and they're up to size, then the frets get put on and pressed in. These were actually all hand cut. These are for our 7 and 8 strings. Also a very tedious process. So you can see down here, the bottoms need to be measured properly so that they fit in the proper slots. And obviously they're smaller down here and they get larger up here, so it is kind of a painstaking process, but we get it done. And then, yeah, they get popped in, pressed, hand beveled, clipped. Rounded. Yeah, well, actually, Shigeki does more of the rounding. This is kind of just a rough bevel that we put on it. But, yeah, we do it all here. I do a lot of it.
Cool. Okay, so next up after Christina's station is you, Raphael, right? You oversee...
Well, I'm the head painter here at Schecter, and I'm basically the step between the CNC and Shigeki and assembly. So we do all that in between. So the bodies and the necks will come from over there.
For sanding.
For sanding. So they'll get delivered to us, and we have Fred and Jose who do a lot of that work. Basically, Fred is the first step in the process. If you can see now, he's sanding one of the traditional bodies. It's just a simple all
Rounding the edges.
Yeah, so he will take his time and with a flat block and round blocks and everything, get it going. All the radiuses have to be smooth, no sharp edges. All the CNC marks have to be gone. All that stuff before we can actually apply any paint. So he'll do that. So that's a fairly simple guitar. We got other guitars, like for example, this has a maple top on it. This will be a little fancier. It has to be done a little bit smoother with finer grit of sandpaper so that it comes out a lot cleaner in paint. Guitars with tops usually are transparent finishes, so I don't want to see scratches in the wood prior to the paint. So I always get on Fred's case, make sure everything is done 100%. We have other, so for example, these are Koa guitars. These will be really nice once they're done. I think most of these were going to be transparent. You see, this one's going to be natural, so they just want me to spray it clear and buff it, and then that'll be that. This will be a really easy finish, actually.
Really nice looking.
So then after Fred is done sanding it, then it'll go to me. Or a lot of times, if I'm really busy, Fred will actually seal the bodies himself. So this is a body that got sealed, and now it's dry, right? So I'm waiting. So now this is actually waiting for color. But as you can see, the sealer gets absorbed into the wood, and because of all the pores and stuff, it's very uneven and very, it's all sunken in.
Dappled finish.
Exactly. So now it has to come back to either me or Fred or Jose, whoever's ready for it, and it has to get sanded flat. We have a series of blocks that this guitar will have to just get sanded with 220 grit sanding paper, 320, before any color can go on. You don't want to burst something or paint something that's all ripply, then it doesn't look good. So
What kind of top is that, the cap?
this is a figured walnut top. It's just like a darker, I think it's got some flame to it. It's not super intense, but then again, I think it looks really nice.
Okay, so you're about to start a batch of finishes in here. So anything you want to tell us before we step into the booth?
No, nothing much really. Right now, I just have a vintage burst on a Telecaster, so we can go in there, film that. This is where the bodies would come to get painted after the sanding. So,
All right, Raphael. So we're inside the booth, the echoey booth, and you're just going to walk us through the process. Why don't you tell us what you're going to do before we see you actually do it, because this is going to get really loud in here. And
sure. So this, so the first thing you got to do is seal the bodies.
to protect like the top cap from the back, because there's different colors from the back to the cap. Is that what you mean?
Sure, you would seal the bodies with a clear coat to protect the wood from warping and all that with a hard finish. We use polyester to do that, and after you do that, you let it cure a minimum of 72 hours or so, and then you're gonna sand that, and now you can put your colors on. Yesterday, I sprayed yellow on this guitar. I sprayed yellow in the front and then brown in the back. So now I'm ready to do my burst. I have it all taped up because this guitar is gonna get binding. And as I want to do the back, and if you notice, I have it all taped up because I don't want any brown overspray to land on my yellow. This one, for example, is a guitar that is already done. We sealed it, and then you spray yellow in the front first and red, and I have the binding all taped up, and so then I go around and burst the front. And then this is like a traditional, like a Gibson-style cherry burst.
Now, is there special tape that you use? Is it just like regular painting tape, or?
There is a special tape. It's called vinyl tape. I think 3M makes it, or any other company. And what it is just like a more rubbery kind of tape. So when you put it on, and
Not as porous, it can't absorb through it. Is that what you mean?
exactly, the paint won't seep through the tape. So when you take it off, you'll have a really clean line. and it makes for a better finish, I think.
Is it true that inevitably, though, at the end you kind of have to scrape some off and clean it up afterward?
You do have to clean it off. The side of it, you don't really, the tape is so good that you just take it off and then you'll have a really clean line. You do have to scrape the front, however. It's tough to, well, actually, right here. If you can see now, there's red on the binding. So now what I have to do, maybe I'll pull a little bit off here. So now we'll remove the tape. So as you can see, this.
Oh, so that's a different piece of tape. I was like, man, there's a lot of bleed through.
No, this is just red on top of the binding tape here. So when I remove it, this is a really clean line. So now what we'll have to do is take maybe a razor blade or something, and go around at an angle and take the red off of this binding is 60 thousandths of an inch thick. So, we want to clean that and make it look nice.
So are there two different layers of tapes? Because you've got the big piece of green tape on the yellow one you're about to work on, and then you got the little one here. Is that something you put on after, or?
So this is the vinyl tape, and it goes on first, and then for the sake of the overspray not landing on the yellow, I put this bigger green tape so that when I'm shooting the sides, it doesn't fall on the front. You can actually see some of the brown on that green tape. So,
and is this also vinyl tape or more like standard painter's tape?
It's just standard tape.
Like the blue tape stuff you find at Lowe's or
that at Home Depot, Lowe's, or whatever. Yeah, the vinyl tape is really what does the trick. That's what's going to give you the really clean line.
All right. Anything else you want to say about the process before you show us?
Well, all this is top secret. Well, no, not really. It's it's an industry standard finish. This will be a tobacco burst, we call it, the vintage burst, but it'll be the dark brown on the sides to the brown fade in the front. So
now, did you say they're polyurethane or?
So the color, the sealer and top coat will be polyester, and the layers in between, the colors will be polyurethane, which is basically car paint. Mm-hmm. It makes for a more durable finish. It's harder. It is UV resistant, whereas, for example, lacquer isn't. If you put your guitar in the front of your store, and the sun hits it over however many years, the colors will fade. And this paint won't do that. It'll stay nice and yellow, nice and brown, and it'll stay there indefinitely until somebody plays it and puts a dent on it or something. So.
All right, Rafael. So after you got like what Fred is doing right now, he's sanding the edges, and after you do the basic sanding and you take it in to get it sprayed, and then after it's sprayed, it comes here, and one of you guys, like Jose here, buffs it.
Yes, after it gets painted and top coated and everything. Again, you want to wait a number of days. Yeah. So then it will come here to Jose, who is our master buffer here, and you basically have to re-sand the guitar, but now with finer and finer grits. I think we take it from 600 grit up to 2,000 grit.
To bring out the sheen.
What you want to do is, so whenever you paint something, it gets what we call an orange peel. The paint will be kind of ripply, so you want to get rid of that and make it as flat as possible. So after the guitar gets sanded and is ready to be polished up, we come in here. We have a few wheels set up with different thicknesses. Like a Hollywood classic guitar has a lot of curves and stuff that maybe a really big wheel is hard to get to. So we have behind you, we have a 1.5 inch wheel, then a 2 inch or so, and then the bigger one. And we have the rough compound, and then we have a finer compound. This is just like a glaze for the last sheen. So Jose will go ahead and start buffing the guitar.
Cool. Take it away, Jose.
So Jose just put some compound on, which is basically just an abrasive, but just like sandpaper would be, except it's way finer. So it comes in this brick shape, and you just add it onto the wheel and buff away. Right now he's buffing the headstock. The process of buffing a guitar can take anywhere between half an hour for a regular traditional Strat style body to up to 2-3 hours if if the guitar is really complicated. These Hollywood classics, take probably about an hour 20 or so, I would say, to buff. So it's actually quite intense physically. You know, you're flexing your back and your arms just standing here for quite some time. So if you have 10 guitars to buff in one day, I mean, good luck. It's
You guys have like a back massage machine here?
that will be me. Sometimes I come back here and I massage.
It's a separate room we can't show. The way get down to the towels. No.
There's a specific room for that we go into.